Jaya Radha
To see Srimada's Divine Grace is Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Ananta Koti Vaishnavarinda ki Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki Gaur Premanandi. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 to read this morning a section of Srimad Bhagavatam in honor of Balaram's appearance day, yesterday. And it's from Canto 10, Chapter 22, and we're going to start with text 30 and read a section. This is a pastime performed by Krishna when he was very young, very, very young. And the chapter involves something very profound and not easy to understand. Pastimes of Krishna are factually not easy to understand. They can be understood only through bhakti, through a mood of service to him. The omniscient Krishna has his eternal associates, and like Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Yada yada hi dharmasya glani. Dharmasya glani means discrepancy in dharma. And from time to time, when there's discrepancy in dharma, Krishna appears. And our understanding should be, when Krishna appears, it's not like us, where we take on a material body and then voila, we appear. Not like that, but rather Krishna's form and his personality and his name and his pastimes, they're all of the spiritual category. No, not at all material. Sat Chit Ananda Vigraha. Ishvara Parama Krishna Sat Chit Ananda Vigraha. Anadir Adir Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam. Nice instruction from Brahma Samhita about Krishna's position. So sometimes Krishna appears. When his appearance means Srijam Yaham in the language of Bhagavad Gita, by his internal potency, his Atma Maya potency, Krishna manifests his eternal, all spiritual form. And after some time, Krishna withdraws from vision to the world of that eternal, all spiritual form. So it's not that his form comes into being and then goes out of being. A very simple example that Prabhupada gives is the rising of the sun in the morning. It's not that at night the sun doesn't exist. And then the sun comes into being. It rises. And then at the end of the day, the sun goes out of being. Not so. Our sight of the sun has dawn and dusk and then night, but the sun doesn't come into being. The sun doesn't come into being. And Krishna doesn't come into being. The form of Krishna doesn't come into being, but from time to time, Srijam Yaham, he manifests that form. And in addition to correcting discrepancy in dharma, dharma shaglani, there's other functions that Krishna performs when he appears. And then one of the main functions is he satisfies the hearts and the devotion of his devotees. He appears for his devotees. They're not with discrepancy in dharma, they're filled with dharma. And they're filled with love for him. And so he reciprocates with their love for him. Then he appears and he engages in loving exchange. Eternal pastimes with his eternal associates. And sometimes there's feelings of separation when they can't see him. And then there's feelings of meeting, sambhoga, meeting, when he shows his form. And then he engages the further science of Krishna's engaging in loving activities with his devotees is there's different moods or rasas or mellows of loving exchange. And there's varieties, there's categories, and then there's subcategories. This is all taught within the Bhagavatam, and light is shown by Romapada Swami, great acharya and disciplic line. 5 primary rasas: neutrality, servitorship, friendship, parental affection, and conjugal love. And in Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan, specifically, exclusively, their sense of his majesty, his divinity, his being the source of everything, is covered. We can say it's zero. They just love him, not because he's God. They want something from God, and so they love him because he'll take care of the things they want. Not like that. That's absent from Vrindavan. It's just loving exchange. And so Krishna knows the hearts of his devotees, and he engages in loving exchange. We discussed a little bit yesterday evening where one of the congregation members was asking about an example of this is chapter 13, chapter 14 of Canto 10, where Brahma steals the calves and the cowherd boys and puts them in the cave because he wants to see what's the limit of the mystic power of Krishna. So he matched his mystic power against Krishna's mystic power, and guess who won? So, aside from the details of that pastime, the question was, it is understood that on the day that Brahma did that, kidnapping, wow, that's a crime. It's a crime against Krishna in Vrindavan. Ooh, bad. But he did it, and Krishna reciprocated in a very loving way with him. He showed there's no limit. No limit. What's that? What is it that has no limit? It's not something material. Everything material has some limit. But Krishna's mystic power, Krishna's Shakti, knows no limit. And then suddenly he withdrew. So, during that particular pastime, Balaram was not there. And there are 2 reasons. The primary reason given why Balaram was not there is, how could Brahma kidnap Balaram? No way. So Balaram wasn't there to facilitate Krishna's exchange with Lord Brahma. I mean, it wasn't stated, I'm not going out today with you to herd the calves because this pastime is going to take place, so I won't be there. It was arranged by Krishna's internal potency. That's our understanding. So Balaram wasn't there. Second is, so that event took place for 1 year, for 1 full year that passed in earthly time. Krishna was fulfilling the desire of the cows and the bulls and the mothers who had sons that were with Krishna during the day, herding the calves in the forest of Vrindavan. They had such love for Krishna that they wanted Krishna as their calf, the bulls and the cows. And the mothers, they wanted Krishna as their son. although they already had the son, who was a dear friend of Krishna, but their affection for Krishna was so strong. So Krishna fulfilled their desire for a whole year. Krishna became their son, looked just like their son. What mother isn't going to recognize this as a, not my son, although he looked like my son? It sounds like my son, it has the same behaviors. What mother is not going to recognize? But the mothers didn't recognize. Looked like, sounded like, felt like, appeared to be in all ways their son, but it was Krishna, fulfilling their desire, their love. This is what Krishna does with his devotees. With the non-devotees, vinashaya cha duskritam. He admonishes them. He lets them have it to restore dharma. That's what Krishna does. And then with the devotees, he reciprocates with them. And all the varieties of love. All the varieties of love. And there's unlimited variety of love. Because there's so many living entities. Each with a unique, each same as us. Each with a unique, very customized relationship with Krishna, unlike any other. There may be categories, but it's still unique. So, in chapter 22, Krishna performs a pastime that's very difficult to understand with the young girls, because Krishna was very young and they were even younger, and Krishna one day had Priyanarma Sakas. These are little boys that were like, could just toddle, little ones. And they were with Krishna. And for a whole month, the young gopis, because Vedic culture, it works differently than modern culture. The young girls were married even before they actually lived with their husband, but they were married very young, so that when they grew up, they knew who their husband was. Prabhupada described it in detail. The girls would stay in their home, but once a year on the boy's birthday, they'd bake something or, cook something or do something and bring it as a gift to their husband. And then he'd say, "Oh, she's very nice." And so the girls learned how to cook nicely, bake nicely, and whatever else they did, make garlands or whatever else they did. And then when the girls reached adulthood, they knew who their husband was. They didn't have to go through this thing that happens in modern situation without detailing. It can be uncomfortable and unpleasant and difficult. So there were young girls, really young, and they all, very interestingly, they all wanted Krishna as their husband. So they did this particular austerity during the month of Magh, the coldest month, January, the end of December, early part of January, cold in Vrindavan at night. And they went to the bank of the river Jamuna and immersed their bodies. After worshipping Katyayani, they entered the river Jamuna up to their neck in freezing cold water, offering prayers to have Krishna eventually as their husband. And so Krishna reciprocated with them. Eventually, he married them. There's a long description of how Rupa Goswami explains how he married them. It's a long narration, not time for that this morning. And then, and with him were these little Priyanarma Saka boys, little guys, with Krishna, who was also quite small. And then that was early in the morning, early, before the sun rose. It's really cold. And then Krishna with the cowherd boys, and then with Balaram, it was some days later, actually some months later, it's summertime now, the second half of chapter 22. I'm just going to read the verses and purports for some verses and get to a particular verse and we'll discuss. Sometime later, Lord Krishna, the son of Devaki, now that's significant because his pastimes in Vrindavan, he's the son of Yashoda. But Shukadeva Goswami is narrating so that we don't forget. Krishna has this relationship with Vasudeva and Devaki. He appeared as their child in the prison house of Kamsa, although he's now in Vrindavan. So Lord Krishna, sometime later, surrounded by his cowherd friends and accompanied by his elder brother Balaram, went a good distance away from Vrindavan, herding the cows. When the sun's heat became intense, so it's summer Vrindavan is. Lord Krishna saw the trees were acting as umbrellas by shading him, and thus he spoke as follows to his boyfriends. Lord Krishna said, "O Stoka Krishna and Angshu, O Sridham Subal and Arjuna," different Arjuna than battlefield of Kurukshetra, the cowherd boy, Arjuna. "O Vrishabha, Ojasvi, Devaprastha, and Varutapa, just see these greatly fortunate trees whose lives are completely dedicated to the benefit of others, even while tolerating the wind, rain, heat, and it doesn't snow in Vrindavan, but snow. They protect us from these elements." Now, the commentary says there's going to be a pastime later that same day, an important pastime, where Krishna gives special mercy to the elder wives of the Brahmanas, because he's already reciprocated much earlier with the cowherd ladies by appearing as their son. But they're the Vaishya community, and then there's the Brahmana community. And the ladies in the Brahmana community, they also had affection for Krishna. So he's going to reciprocate with them. So the commentary says Krishna's preparing the ground for the next pastime, because he's omniscient, he knows what's coming attractions. He writes the script and he performs the drama. He's everything. So he's speaking about the mood of service. And he's pointing to the trees, saying, now, most of the time we don't really get into glorifying trees, but Krishna does. Because they're devotees too. In the spiritual world, according to what the Bhagavatam teaches us, everything, and that means everything, is conscious. And so trees, they're conscious, and they're conscious of their role of service to Krishna and to everybody in Vrindavan. Krishna goes on. Just see how these trees are maintaining every living entity! Exclamation point. Their birth is successful. Their behavior is just like that of great personalities, where anyone who asks anything from a tree never goes away disappointed. And similarly, great personalities. I mean, how can you, is it possible? Everybody throughout your whole life, they never go away disappointed. But at least that's the mood of a great personality, and somebody may be disappointed anyways. These trees fulfill one's desires with their leaves, flowers, and fruits. Their shade, roots, bark, and wood, and also with their fragrance, sap, ashes, pulp, and shoots. Now that's a long list. There's no purport here. But there are different ways that one can serve. And trees, even the incidentals, they serve everybody. I was visiting a place once, university in India, and in the approach to that university, there was this large forest of really tall, old trees that had really big leaves. And it was the season where the trees would shed their leaves. So I noticed as we were approaching the campus itself, or where the buildings on the campus, that the village people had come with little brooms and large pieces of cloth that they used like a bag, and they gathered up all the leaves, forest cleaning. But it wasn't just, to keep the place clean. It was fuel for their cooking. Now they could have used the leaves probably for other things too, but at least I was told that's what they do. And then later, I heard a lecture, recorded lecture of Srila Prabhupada saying that's what people do. Very practical, natural economy. They don't have to do pipelines with et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's just nature's arrangement. Of course, the climate is suitable, but in America, there's a whole different program. I wasn't there, but I was told from a devotee that lives in Miami, they used to have trees lining the side of the road. There were orange trees. But then nobody would pick the oranges, so the oranges would fall to the ground and make a mess. So they pulled out all the orange trees and put in trees that don't make a mess on the highway. Impious to replace pious, because it's work. So figure it out. What's important to people. So for trees, the pious ones produce ample necessities for everybody. The list is mentioned. It's their mood. And it's because, and in Vrindavan, specifically we're going to hear, they're servants of Balaram. That's, Krishna has his arm around Balaram saying, just see, they're worshipping you. It is the duty of every living it is the duty of every living being to perform welfare activities for the benefit of others with his life, wealth, intelligence, and words. And that's the verse that I wanted to speak about. That's all I'm going to read from the Bhagavatam. Now, as a young brahmachari, I heard Srila Prabhupada on 2 occasions speak. He didn't make reference where this is from, but he made reference to Krishna says to Balaram that there's 2 main things. One of the main things is not just saintly people, not just elevated and pious people, but people in general, every living being. It's a duty of life to perform charity or acts of kindness or compassion to others. in these 4 ways. And this is Krishna speaking, so it's true. And it's common sense anyways, but it's the authority of Krishna behind it makes it absolutely true. So, but the way that Prabhupada was explaining was for his young Western disciples, he was making it really simple and saying we formed this Hare Krishna movement to train people how to become proper human beings. And a proper human being serves others, and that's a purpose or a function of the Hare Krishna movement. He was instructing us, this is what he wanted of us as his followers. So we're looking up to him, and he's saying, followers, I'd like you to be like this. And that's what I want in the world. You set a nice example of this in the world, please. So serve others by dedicating your life. So he was saying, Prabhupada was saying, dedicate your life. Sometimes when we go and present Bhagavad Gita and the bhakti process, people may give their life. Some people may not give their life. Some people may give some of the fruits of their work to assist the efforts of those who are giving their life to dedicate to Krishna's service. Some persons may give their intelligence. They don't have particularly wealth, but they have some intelligence, some ability to do something, and they can do some service according to their capacity and the intelligence that Krishna has bestowed upon them. And at least they should give their words of appreciation. Now, Prabhupada's explanation. They should say, the Hare Krishna people are nice. When we interact with people, we may know some persons may give their life, some persons may give their wealth, some persons may give their intelligence and some service according to their intelligence. But at least Prabhupada's instruction was they should give their words and say, the Hare Krishna people are nice. And if they say otherwise, that's our disservice. If they say the Hare Krishna people are not nice. Now, some people are going to say that anyways, because they don't like the holy name, and we chant the holy name, and they say, well, I don't like your haircut, or something. I don't like your Bhagavad Gita. I like the Quran, or whatever. Christ is the only way. So I don't like you have another way. In their estimation. So people, but at least from our side, our effort, our consciousness should be, people should say, the character, we were speaking the other day with the youth about cultural engineering. Nice topic for youth. So the tip of the iceberg of culture is the behavior and speech. Perceivable conduct of the Hare Krishna people should be, people that are following Krishna's instructions should be appropriate. Time, place, circumstance. Austerity of speech, it's a nice one. Bhagavad Gita chapter 17, Krishna outlines how our speech should be, so it's pleasing and beneficial and non-fruitive and in a nice service mood. Regardless of what the outcome is, that's the mood of our speech and our behavior and so forth. So at least that should be the consciousness behind how we interact with others. Whether it's the close circle of family or the going just concentric circles out. Those who are family regularly associated with, our friends, then keep going, our community, and then keep going out and out and out. So at least the consciousness behind what we do should be like that. Based on this deeper desire that we want to please Krishna, because pleasing Krishna is everything. And just to connect this with Balaram's appearance day yesterday, to do all of that sounds nice. We're going to need some strength. It's like swimming upstream in the Ganges during rainy season. You may be a very expert swimmer, but you're going downstream because the Ganges flows really fast. Especially during rainy season. So what do? When you're in this world and values are going downstream fast and behaviors are downstream fast? Yikes. So what to do? And then raising families. Next generation, what to do? So parents are naturally concerned, and parents have to set a good example, and everything going downstream really fast. So we need strength. And that comes from Balaram. The purpose is pleasing Krishna, the all-attractive, and he's giving some nice instruction to us, and we need strength from Balaram to do it. Like, we need to know what to do, but we need strength to do it and not succumb to the current of Kali Yuga going in a not nice direction. And it's all around us. Try to find a nice cave where it isn't abundant, and it's abundant. It's abundant. So we need strength. We need Krishna to give this nice instruction, but the nice instruction we should understand from scripture. We should understand that's an aspect of Krishna that's the original spiritual master Balaram speaking. So Krishna is speaking these nice words. At the same time, Balaram is showing us how to and giving us the strength how to. So we need both. So we have a nice mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Balaram ki Jai. So let's see if there's any discussion on this Srimad Bhagavatam instruction. Yes? Yes, I see. Srimati.
Yeah. Maharaj, here in this verse it's been mentioned like benefit of others. Like everybody have their own idea of how would their activities benefit others.
Yes, everyone does.
Could you elaborate on the basis of?
Well, for a devotee, the benefit of others is determined by what's pleasing to Krishna. And now there may be a range of things pleasing to Krishna, but then there's a range of things that are not pleasing to Krishna. So we don't go over there because it's not pleasing to Krishna. But as best as we can, according to our discernment, our faculty of intelligence, what's going to be perceived as beneficial to others. You attended the very nice seminar that Bir Krishna Maharaj presented on nonviolent communication, and the big topic was understanding your needs and understanding another's needs, and seeing if there's some way that you can help another person feel that their need is being recognized and you're addressing it. Now there's boundaries of what we won't do, but we try to do like that. And that's exactly Bhagavad Gita 17:15. It's that which is beneficial. Now many people have a different idea of what's beneficial. So then we look to what their need is. Not just, not just a desire, but a deeper sense of need. That's a whole seminar on that topic. So, but that's my reply. You have something?
Yes. So it's related to the yesterday's afternoon class that we had.
The youth class?
Yeah, the
or
youth
evening class?
The youth class.
Okay.
So in there, one of the questions was how do you deal with kind of things happening at home? Like there is something happening and you want to express, and
this is the youth saying.
Yeah, the youth saying.
Okay.
So that's when you said you should love that person without keeping a count of how many times you give in.
Well, there were many things I said, but
that's one of them.
One of the many things.
Yes. So in that case, the question that I had was, how do you know whether you're being taken advantage of or
so
undue advantage?
So what?
Or you should just don't care about.
Well, you may draw some line in the sand, as they say. But, we don't just willingly accept abuse, for example. Sexual abuse or physical abuse or even verbal abuse. We don't just But, in this world, when the soul has material contamination, that's everybody, conditioned souls, there's some desires. And those desires may be you're a facility for fulfilling my desire. That's who you are. So, when you get down to it, material relationships are exploitative. Just by default. So what are you going to do? So you draw a line. You just accept that that's, to a degree, that's there. Knowingly, not like that's yummy, but to a degree it's there. And then what do I do? Then you go to that place that says, how can I be of service to this person? Family member or outside the family member or whatever. How can I be of service? And there's some boundaries. And we let the person know, this is, please don't cross this boundary.
I think that the difficulty is to figure out what's the boundary.
Well, part of the difficulty is to know who we are.
That's a major one. That's a major one.
So this topic and topics like this, it's an endless series of refinements. It is hard to make blanket statements because there's so much detail and time, place, circumstance. So to speak principle, you have to stop short with detail and just principle. Just be in the mood of service and have some idea of who you are, and try to go deeper into the sense of who you are. And who you are is not only the higher spiritual sense, but using the phrase that Advaita Chandra likes, a holistic sense of who I am. The same as Bir Krishna Maharaj's language, what my needs are. That's not necessarily the absolute sense, but it's a part of the package, a part of the holistic package. So it has to be some self-awareness.
So more like the one which we discussed, like creating an identity for your own self.
Well, not creating, discovering.
Yeah, discovering. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, discovering the identity and thereby drawing the boundaries based on that.
Well, something like that. It's a little oversimplistic, but something like that.
Thank you very much.
Maharaj, you talked about people who may criticize the devotees. What reactions do they get, if any, for unknowingly criticizing anything about devotees or the Hare Krishna?
Well, it depends. If they criticize or make fun of, the chanting, or they may criticize Krishna, like Shishapal. But he was, really Krishna conscious. He got purified because of calling Krishna's name, and although he was inimical like anything. But a lot depends. Depends. So, the sensitivity may be there from our side, but we don't want people to make offense, so we'll just be invisible. We'll conceal our identity because we don't want them to say something bad about Krishna and Krishna's devotees. So just hide my Krishna bhakti identity because I don't want them to make any, offense and get a reaction for that. That's not advised. We have our trust. We found primarily. Did you receive that little video that I had sent out about Prabhupada speaking in Henry Street, Brooklyn, about the holy name?
I haven't seen it yet.
Okay. There's this little video clip. I don't, whether it's edited or not, I don't think. But in any case, Prabhupada is explaining. When I began, I didn't have anything except the holy name. And I gave the holy name. And he was saying, because of that, now there's so many people. And he was sharing his heart about his faith in the holy name. And some people may understand, they may not understand. They may be attracted, they may not be attracted. But it's creating an auspicious atmosphere just that they hear. And this world needs an auspicious atmosphere. So with faith, we went. And then he said, and some may know, I didn't even have a drum. And then, but I had kartals, and we went to the park, and Brahmananda and Chutananda, they started dancing. Prabhupada names them in person. And then, an atmosphere of auspiciousness was created in a place of darkness, New York City. So, and then again, people may understand, they may not understand, they may appreciate, not appreciate. It's a faith goes to awakening Krishna Bhakti by a prescribed method specifically for the sake of the holy name. Hare Nama. And that's, Prabhupada said, I didn't bribe anybody, I didn't have any money to bribe anybody.
Mm-hmm.
But students came because they became purified by that auspicious sound vibration. Like that. So, we want to be careful. At the same time, we have to have faith in Krishna and Krishna Bhakti and Krishna, the absolute nature of Krishna, the purifying nature of Krishna. people may defile Bhagavad Gita. So we shouldn't distribute Bhagavad Gita because some people may make an offense and defile Bhagavad Gita. We have faith in the Bhagavad Gita's message and its purifying nature. Anyway, there's some fine discretion of what not to say in certain audiences or situations. That's intelligence, fine discretion, what to say, not to say. But faith, at least in the principle, in the mood of wishing for the well-being of others. Being an instrument of Krishna for their well-being. Not me, but Krishna. The instrument of Krishna. That was the message that Prabhupada was speaking. Anything else? Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki
Yeah.
jai.
Everyone put some,
Jai.